the co-founder of Australian Sustainable Destinations Alliance, and so what we do is we're the national operator for Green Key here in Australia. So Green Key is a global organisation, and then we look after the program here in Australia.
So Scott was telling me that we're the only hotel group that has hotels with Green Key. So it's a big achievement. So as everyone here knows, we've been on our sustainable journey for basically from the beginning. We saw we had an opportunity to really differentiate ourselves, and this is just part of our journey. But before we go any further, we decided we were going to do this together instead of me doing a speech and then Scott doing a speech and then me saying something else. So we're just going to share the microphone. Tell us a little bit more about the journey you've been on this week.
Thanks, John. So as I mentioned, we are the national operator here in Australia for Green Key. Green Key is one of the oldest and one of the most known eco-labels for the hospitality industry in the world. So Green Key has actually been around for more than 30 years. It was originally founded in Copenhagen in Denmark, and it remains headquartered in Copenhagen. And last count, we were well over 6,000 certified establishments around the world. In fact, it's rapidly approaching 7,000, and that's in more than 70 countries around the world. So it is a very, very large, very well-credentialed and well-respected eco-label for tourism and hospitality. There are actually 6 categories in the Green Key programs, but more than 70% of the establishments around the world that are certified for Green Key are actually hotels. So we're very much considered to be a hotel specialist, and obviously working with the Pro-Invest properties here, as Jan mentioned. Pro-Invest is the first certified Green Key group of properties here in Australia. There are others in the program, but at this point in time, the Pro-Invest hotels are the only ones certified. Our colleagues are here from IHG. You also have the first IHG branded Green Key certified properties also in Australia. So it is really quite an achievement. And I said to Anthony the other day when I met Anthony, you know, whatever happens now, there'll be other hotels obviously join. You'll always be the first. So well done.
Anthony likes being the first. Obviously, the logical question here is around New Zealand, because I think New Zealand doesn't really have a way of branding, way of certifying hotels with sustainability. So can you give my thoughts around that?
Sure can. So you actually can certify any property in the world actually with Green Key. It's the difference, I guess, in the process is where there is a national operator, like we do have here in Australia, that process is actually managed locally. Now, obviously, for a group like Pro-Invest, you've got a number of properties across the country. It makes a lot more sense to be working with a local organisation like ourselves. So Green Key is an interesting question. You know, it's fairly logical that most hotel, whether they're ownership groups or whether they're the hotel groups themselves, the brands themselves, we really kind of see our friends in New Zealand as kind of our partners. So we generally sort of headquarter, in Australia, and the Australian operations will typically also keep or take the New Zealand properties under their wing as well. You can certify for Green Key right now, but in the coming weeks, we hope it's not too far away. There'll be hopefully an opportunity for you to actually work with us and actually do the New Zealand properties as well. One of the Green Key charters is that each operator looks after one country, but there are things at play that will hopefully see us be able to also take in New Zealand properties and actually look after them through the same process fairly soon. Touch wood.
That's great news. We've obviously, through our own sustainability brand of One Earth Countless Experiences, New Zealand's very much part of that. And over time, we always implemented whatever we implement to our hotels in Australia, obviously across to New Zealand. But getting accreditation would be a really important next step. Look, there's obviously this is a very important moment, and for us to be the first accredited hotels is really exciting. So thank you, and it's fantastic, guys, to we all, and obviously IC. Thank you for being here, Sam, and the group. As you can see around us, the weather patterns and everything that's going on, the weather, things are definitely changing, and the tourism and travel industry is a big part of the climate change, and we need to do whatever we can. And more of our customers now are asking for what our sustainability brand or what our sustainability strategy is. So some of our customers are starting to ask for, their carbon footprint, and things are really starting to get momentum. So this is just another step in our 3-year strategy around One Earth Countless experience and the targets we set to move further and do our part for the environment and sustainability. So everyone here today, thank you so much, and as well, thank you so much for joining. I don't know if there's any questions that anyone has that you want to ask, or anything that's top of mind while we're standing here. No one has said enough. Oh, no one.
The question I have is, with all the, certifications you have, a big conversation point is that the terminology across the various, aspects you have hasn't been defined. Are you playing any role in helping to shape the terminology so that everyone plays towards the same metrics?
So that's a very good question, and it's there's probably lots of different ways I can answer that, but fundamentally, you're 100% correct. I mean, one of the things that we all have to look out for, particularly you guys as hoteliers, is to make sure that the program you're actually using is valid, is accredited by or in the right way, using the right criterias. That's one of the really basic fundamentals that obviously good hoteliers want to look for, and not every eco certification is a good one. There are ones that just don't make you work hard enough for being certified, or they have let's use the term, it's called greenwashing. We're all familiar with this, right? So it is, I wouldn't say it's a major problem, particularly in this country, or across the world, or at least across the Western world in general, but over the next couple of years, there will be a lot of work done, which is actually being led by the EU at this point in time, to actually tighten up exactly what you're talking about, Young. So it's around, how do you define what good sustainability looks like? And that definitely is already in place. I mean, if we look at organisations like GSTC or other accreditation agencies, there is a very, very strong baseline template. But over the next 2 years, that will become much more stringent. So the EU, by 2027, they aim to implement what they call the Green Claims Directive. And that Green Claims Directive is really all about the elements you talk about, to make sure that things are standardised. If you want to operate in the EU, for example, once that directive comes in, you'll only be able to accredit through a EU-based supplier. So you're not going to be able to use somebody I found on the internet and, hey, it looks okay to me, and it gave me a green tick. So you're going to have to work a little bit harder. And then there's also going to be a more stringency around the way that you get accredited, or the audits, or the independent part of being certified with Green Key. Jahan knows this, that you guys that work in the hotels will know this, that when your audits were done, it wasn't done by me or an employee of mine. It was an independent auditor that comes in and says, well, I'm happy with this, or I'm not happy with this. That's actually going to get even more stringent, so there'll be more controls around that to make sure that everything is independently verified. So it's kind of a long answer, but there's a few elements that they're kind of tied into the question. So good question. And that process will continue to improve. Certainly over the next 2 to 3 years, there'll be a fair bit of change seen in that compliance and consistency space.
Okay, thank you, everyone. Thank you so much for joining, and congratulations, everyone. And thank you, and have a wonderful weekend. Thank you.